Welcome everyone to this absolutely beautiful Saturday around the world. So we're going to say good morning, good afternoon, good night to the people around the globe. This is Freedom from Nigeria, and this is where we bring you information about what's going on in Nigeria. We package it all up together for you so that you can get a very good glance as to what is happening in the country. Today, we are going to be talking about the West should restore the Nigeria indigenous nations so that they can stop genocide, end the apartheid, and reap huge economic benefits. We'll be talking about what that actually means. What was Nigeria before? What was agreed to prior to the military coup? What was agreed to during the 1999 so-called constitution implementation? Is there genocide actually going on in Nigeria? And we talked a lot about this last week, looking at the Bernard-Henri Levy report that certainly says that there is. Is there apartheid going on in Nigeria? And who is causing that apartheid? And how have they managed to do that? And then we'll go on, as I said before, to talk about what changes we can expect to see from the change in economy, from the federal government to the regional autonomous governments that the indigenous Nigerians are calling for, from the Middle Belt to the South. Today, I do have a few folks that are in, and some more that will be joining us. Stephen is going to be talking about the economic benefits, and we'll be looking to everyone to chip in as we talk about the key topics of today. So welcome everyone. And for some reason, it looks like, Stephen, are you having a difficult time? Because I see you bouncing in and out. So without much further ado, we are going to get started with the topics. I'm going to share my screen and we will dive right into it. And if you do want to make a comment over here, do please raise your hand and we will call you to make the comment, but please keep the comment to what we are discussing. And those that are viewing live on Ginger Media, do please put your questions in if you have questions, and we'll try to answer them. So, topic of today: world must restore Nigeria indigenous nations to stop genocide and apartheid and reap huge economic benefits. Welcome, Stephen. Do you want to just welcome our viewers today, and before we get started?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be with you this day to discuss the merits and the benefits of a federalized indigenous republic rather than a unitary system of government currently being perpetrated by the Fulani hegemony in the contraption called Nigeria. Thank you.
You are welcome. Now, I do have this cover that we have that has a lot of information. So we'll talk a little bit about this before we dive in. First of all, I'm sure everyone can see the pink map on the upper right-hand corner. And that map represents the regional Nigeria between 1960 in this case, actually 1963, because the Midwestern region was added then, to 1967, when we had issues with the military taking over and scuttling this arrangement. Now, to the right of that, you would see a map, and this is the NINAS map, that talks about what the new regional outlook could look like. In the far north, you would have the Arewa or the Sharia Federation. And in actuality, Sharia has actually means that those 12 states have seceded from Nigeria because Nigeria is meant to be a circular state, and they have introduced religion, Sharia, into their midst. In the middle of that, in the purple, would be the middle belt. The middle belters are a unique group, and they were actually supposed to be carved out. They are not northern Nigerians, and so that would be their area. Then to the left, you would have the Yoruba Nation, and then at the bottom would be the Lower Niger Federation, which would encompass the old Midwest and the Eastern region, and have various independent federations in there as it is currently imagined. Now, I want to point out something, other things that we're going to be talking about, because this is what's important. We see that the Northern elders reject the power shift to the South. Why would we be talking about a power shift if indeed Nigeria was a democratic country in which all regions, all sections of the country had the ability to elect a president? Why are we talking about zoning? And that's part of what we're going to be talking about, the apartheid. These are all the things that lend credibility and actual facts to what's actually going on. We see below that the presidency 2023, PDP sabotages South on zoning. And then we have a Fulani map, as was predicted. APC Fulani folks were going to all migrate over to PDP and abandon the APC. And we have seen the mass abandonment from the APC to the PDP. So change of party does not mean a change of anything in Nigeria, because they moved to PDP, and instead of the Southern presidency that was demanded by the Middle Belt to the South, we have another Fulani, Atiku, as the presidential candidate. So we're going to move on. We're going to talk about the Nigeria Constitution. We'll talk about the discussion that was held in the UK. That's the document to the right with the red arrows pointing to it. And the facts on the ground about what sort of a country Nigeria needed to be successful. And we will compare that to unitary Nigeria, so our folks and the folks overseas will truly understand what we're talking about. Okay, the next slide just points out some of the things that we're dealing with. Shigami says the federal government knows where the bandits are hiding out, and if they do, why are they not going after them? That's the question. Amnesty International says the same thing. Gunmen in Nigeria enjoy impunity, right? Bernard Henri Levy. We've got the Benue governor accusing President Buhari of appointing suspected Boko Haram supporters into key government positions. We've already seen where the repentant Boko Haram have been put in the armed forces, the same armed forces that the International Criminal Court and the UN both indicated were committing crimes against humanity, right? And then we see from the 2023 elections, the Arawa group says that they won't allow campaigns for Igbo presidential candidates in the North. If this is a democratic area, how is this allowed to be even something that is published and the government does not crack down and insist on due process? Okay, so let's talk about a discussion overview. We'll talk about the world must restore Nigeria indigenous nations. And we'll talk about the fact that this agreement was illegally rescinded. Nigeria was never meant to be unitary. We'll talk about stopping the genocide of the Christians, the Fulani apartheid, reaping the economic benefits. And once again, we're going to talk about what the indigents must do to save their land. So let's get started into this. The reason I have this here is I wanted to point out what was discussed in Britain and how the Constitution in 1960-63 We're now amended to see that we had the right information. Okay, so we'll talk about, I am going to stop sharing so that I can share this document from the source of it, which is in the British archives that we are able to get into. And I will have Stephen, once I get there and pull it up, I would have you read certain things from there that talks to what Nigeria was actually meant to be. Give me a second so I can make this a little bigger for you. And gonna highlight the areas that we want to look at. Okay, now I am ready to share this, Stephen. And if you can please help us with the reading of that, we can discuss that. Stephen, if you can unmute. And this document here is from api.parliament.uk. And this is where we have the historical information from 1953 to 1955, I believe, was talking about the Nigerian information. OPO CPH2217, please change that to your name and be on camera so we know who you are. Thank you. Stephen, can you help us to kind of read through this document here so that we can talk about what Nigeria was actually meant to be, so everyone can see where we started from and the fact that we are not where we're supposed to be.
The Secretary of State for the Colonies, Mr. Oliver Littleton, excuse me. Sorry, my screen is so small.
I'm trying to make it a little bigger.
Yeah.
Is that big enough now?
It keeps, yeah, yeah, let me do it from here.
Okay.
Okay. The Secretary of State for the Colonies, Mr. Oliver Littleton, with your permission, Mr. Speaker, and the permission of the House, I should now like to make a statement on the Nigerian Constitution. Recent events have shown that it is not possible that the three regions of Nigeria to work together effectively in a federation so closely knit as that provided by the present Constitution. Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom, while greatly regretting this, consider that the Constitution will have to be redrawn to promote for greater regional autonomy and for the removal of powers of intervention by the center. By the center in matters which can, without detriment to other regions, be. I'm sorry, this thing keeps changing.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Ruby, can you please admit people that they're coming in so that I am not interfering with okay, here we go. It's back in. So you are at let's see, where were you? Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom, while greatly regretting this, consider that the
Constitution will have to be redrawn to provide for greater regional autonomy and for the removal of powers of innovation by the center in matters which can, without detriment to other regions, be placed entirely within the regional competence It is at the same time necessary to ensure that the common economic and defense requirements of all regions are secured. In order to ensure these vital requirements of all regions, and at the same time to preserve the common interest of all the parts of Nigeria, there will, of course, be a continuing need for a central organization. The form which that central organization should take and the powers which must be reserved to it will require careful study.
Okay, so this is a very important document.
Wow.
I know a lot of people, this was sent to me and I made sure that I came here to the actual location. Because what this is talking about, and this is 1953, prior to because there was a constitution in place at the time, and that constitution was not working. So when we're coming into independence, it was said that events have shown that it is not possible for the three regions of Nigeria to work together effectively in a federation so closely knit as that provided by the present constitution. So it needs to be redrawn to provide for greater regional autonomy and for the removals of powers of intervention by the center in manners which can, without detriment to the other regions, be placed entirely within regional competence. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing because this is very important information and I think deserves our discussions about that. So in 1960, a new constitution was put in place and regional autonomy and self-governance was established to see that those nations, those regions had autonomy, they had their own leaders, they had their own assets. They were able to care for their own people. And the central government was just a small piece that dealt with things like, you know, the consular type activities. It dealt with, you know, the security, you know, just so that we'll have, you know, economies of scale, etc. But the center was never meant to interfere in the activities of the regions. But is that what we have today? The reason that we have so much issues in Nigeria today is that Nigeria, by the military coups and the fraudulent 1999 constitution, has put something in place where the federal government controls everything in the country. I see, Eugene, that you have joined us. Welcome, Eugene. Did you want to make some comments about this explosive information that we have here regarding what Nigeria was actually meant to be, what was put in place between 1960 and 1967, and what we have today, which is a unitary system that flies in the face of logic? Eugene?
Yes, thank you for asking me. And hi, everybody. The only comment I want to make is that this piece of information was true at that time. And at one point, Nigeria operated within that system and then deviated. So it is
forcibly
Nigeria either go back to that system or.
Right, they were forcibly deviated. For some reason, you are not coming across, you're not coming across clearly. Eugene, you are not coming across.
I don't know if it's my internet connection.
Yeah, it says that your
Maybe
network
my
bandwidth is
connection.
low.
So that's the only thing I can think.
Yeah, it's telling me here that your network bandwidth is low. Okay, so Bolade, I'm going
I don't know
to
how
call
to
on
change it.
Bolade while you work on your bandwidth. Bolade, comments. How do you feel about this? This is information as to the fact that this has been studied. Nigeria was studied and a constitution put in place to see that it is successful. And as we're finding out right now, that's not what we have in place currently.
I think what happened was before independence, they experimented with various constitutions and they knew what could work because my parents are from the West, they're Yorubas. Now, the Western region, prior to independence, when they had their government, they were making a go of everything. They were good, they knew, and everybody knew that, look, if you leave the West alone, they're going to make a go of it, basically. And then come independence and prior to into independence, certain things changed and we got what we got today. And everybody knew that, I mean, the Hausas actually, they went on issue to say, oh, you Britain, don't give us independence now, because if you give us independence now, those Southerners will rule us and we'll never get them out. That was definitely true because they knew these people, the Southerners, had the brains because like God said, he said, don't give the Hausas education or that. That's not what they need. But with their Fulani brothers, they understood.
They're not brothers,
power.
Please. The Fulani and Hausas are not brothers.
I'm sorry.
Let's just keep it clear. The Fulanis are migrants to Nigeria.
The Fulanis are migrants.
Migrated to Nigeria. The Hausas are indigenous.
So when they established this Sokoto Caliphate thing, which unfortunately I found something else about that. The Hausas had been Muslims before the Fulanis came in. Did anybody know that?
Absolutely, that is true.
I just found out that recently, in fact, last week.
Yeah, we talked about that here last week. Absolutely.
Oh, so I'm thinking, so why did the Hausas not fight back and even say after that, well, you're not part of us because we were Muslims anyway, so we don't want you here. But the Hausas have been taken down and they're still suffering from it to this very day.
They're living under slavery, absolutely, absolutely. So again, this here kind of also talks to the fact that we had these empires in the area already, right? The Yorubas were doing their thing, right? The Middle Belters were doing their thing. The folks in the Southeast and part of the, what's considered the Southeast were doing their thing. They all had nations already, maybe not in the way that is constructed in the Western world, but those existed. The Your Empire, the Nog, etc., etc. Those all existed, prior to this forced integration. Okay, so the information that we had is that that study showed clearly that unitary Nigeria, which is what we're talking about, where there is a federal government that controls everything, it was clear that that would not work for Nigeria. And so the Constitution was set up with regions, nations that had autonomy and they were self-governing until the military intervention and that fraudulent 1999 Constitution that was put in place without the people's consent. So that's kind of, Eugene, are you at a place now where you can make some comments before we move on, or were you done with your commentary?
I'm not sure. I think, I'm still trying to.
It still says
I'm on wireless, might be the reason why.
Yeah, if you're on wireless, it's still saying that your bandwidth is low, so we're not able to hear you. You're kind of breaking in and out. So maybe you can find a better wireless band. Okay, So OPO CPH2217, can you please change to your name? We like to have everyone actually put their names and also be on camera if it's the first time that you're joining us, so we know who you are. Because if not, we can't actually call on you to ask any questions because we just reserve that for those who are part that we know who they are. Thank you. Okay, so something happened and that resulted in there being a need for the Aburi Accord. The Aburi Accord was to restore the regional autonomy that had been truncated. This is the agreement fell apart really quickly. So in 1966, we were already, Ojukwu from the south, from the eastern region, went to Ghana, Aburi in Ghana, to come up with this accord. And the main purpose of this was to see that the regional autonomy that had been taken away should be put back in place. That's what this Aburi Accord was all about. But as we can see, it was broken. And what unfolded was a pressure cooker for injustice and apartheid. That's what ensued. And so what happened? After the agreement, the military government decided to change the agreement. In Section 71, in the really offending clauses, and this is from Wikipedia, the really offending clauses of the decree was Section 70 and 71, which empowered the Supreme Military Council to declare a state of emergency in Nigeria if the head of the federal military government and at least 3 of the governors agreed to do so. 3 of the governors agreed to do so. Section 71 also empowered the head of the federal military government in agreement with at least 3 governors to legislate for any particular region whenever they deemed it fit during a state of emergency, with or without the consent of the governor of that particular region. Goes on to say, in effect, Gowon, who was the military government leader, had thus taken power unto himself to deal with Ojukwu whenever he pleased, how he pleased, and as long as he pleased. Note here, however, that a lot of people are now understanding that this was not just an Eastern problem, not a Southeast problem, but a problem for all indigenous people, because we are seeing it unfold that the Fulani, who are migrants to Nigeria, have continued to make inroads into Nigeria. We've got the killings by the Fulani militia, who are the number 4, I think number 3 now on the global terrorist index. They have been making inroads. They've been sending, buses and truckloads of foreign Fulani into the forests. And they have been daily killings from the Middle Belt to the South. And all of this mainly in the Christian indigenous areas, and especially in the Northeast. So the Aburi Accord was to restore what had been agreed to. So this is just kind of showing us we went from the regions, and now we're 36 states where with no autonomous, none of the states are autonomous. None of them are self-governing. The federal government, which is now led mainly by the Fulani, who are migrants to Nigeria, have all the power under the 68-item exclusive list and the 30-item semi-exclusive, which is really exclusive. And so we need to move to a new people's nation where the regions are reestablished. And this is what we're calling on the world to do. And this is what's going to yield the benefits that we talked about, the benefits that we can get from this. So let's take a look at the, what's been going on under the Fulani government. And, further down, we'll see some information as to who is actually ruling Nigeria and, what tribe are they from? What are the tribes that have been presidents? But that's coming up. But over here, let's talk about the complicity of the Buhari Fulani-led government. Bernard Henri was very clear that he was holding Buhari government responsible. The International Criminal Court said that the Nigerian armed forces had committed war crimes, and it's been investigated. Amnesty International, as we talked about previously, talked about the fact that these gunmen are operating with impunity. Then we had Danjuma that called attention in 2018 to ethnic cleansing and government complicity. And he said clearly, if you wait for the government, you will all die one by one. Then Lafia, may he rest in peace, also came up talking about the fact that a current, this was last year, I believe in 2021, a current governor was the leader of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Shigami told us that the federal government knows exactly where the bandits' hideouts are, and still no actions have been taken to rid Nigeria of these foreign Fulanis. In that, even Buhari himself told us that the Fulani herdsmen carrying AK-47 are not Nigerians, but he has done nothing to remove them from the forest. And then we can go even further and talk about the fact of what's on the ground today. They have Zulum brought in 35,000 so-called repentant terrorists. No other country in the world, I repeat, have had any repentant terrorists that stayed repentant. And no other country in the world has taken in terrorists into their community and their community stays safe. So in 2021, Zulum told us that the repentant Boko Haram were used as spies. In 2022, he wants to bring in 35,000. I believe that was in April. And would you believe, just a few days ago, a couple of days ago, we're not talking about Zamfara, Benue has been talking about this, asking the residents to take up arms against the bandits. These bandits that are Fulani, foreign Fulani. So this is where we are in the country today. And that's why in the British Parliament, they discussed the fact that Nigeria cannot be unitary. Nigeria cannot be a combined country. It had to have regional autonomy to prevent any tribe from dominating and creating the apartheid that we see today. Lest we forget, Buhari donated $1 million, that's $1 million to Afghanistan, while we have 102 million Nigerians living in poverty. And while we are being killed, the Minister of Police tells Nigerian people not to take up arms illegally, instead of him telling the government to allow the people to defend themselves, since they are not disarming these bandits, Fulani herdsmen, Boko Haram, ISIS, ISWAP. He's telling citizens to be sitting ducks, in other words. So I see that Bolade has raised his hand. Bolade, I'm not sure what you wanted to talk about, but I will.
Yeah, I was gonna say that maybe I've said this before, but like Now found out that certain media outlets in Nigeria that go after the facts and bring the facts to the fore have now been fined for doing so, and have been told, if you got any story, you cannot take it, especially with spreads of the security stuff, which is not there. There's no security there. You got to bring the DSSS and all that, and the DSS basically, whatever the DSS is doing, they're doing what they really want to do, and nobody is safe. For instance, the incidents with Sunday Bo and Ndubisi are borne out by this, because Ndubisi, they went to his place, they raided it with the intention of killing him there. Now he escaped with his life, and they said he don't bail. Sunday Bo is almost the same thing. They raided his house with the intention of killing him. He escaped with his life, and when he was safe, he now went to Republic Benin. They now asked Republic Benin to keep this guy, and they want him to come back to Nigeria. But Republic Benin looking into it said, well, he hasn't done anything in our country, and we're looking at you. We see you not doing the right thing. We don't want to be complicit in your crime, so we're not doing this. Eventually, they let him go. So that's what Nigeria is doing to its people. We don't know how many other people that Nigeria has done similar things to, because they've opened their mouth in the media.
Okay, everyone, please mute your lines when you are here, please. All the lines need to be muted. Okay, so yes, great information as you're talking about Bolade. Again, this is all showing what we're trying to show here. It's the history of Nigeria, what's known and what is the repercussions. We've been talking about what is the repercussions of what we are seeing today from the change that was made to Nigeria from what it was supposed to be to what we are seeing today, which is a unitary Nigeria that is being used for a Fulanization agenda, for a jihadist agenda. Okay, we've talked about some of this before, the fact that, you know, giving land for ranching is better than dead. This was the presidency. And can you believe the government is not curtailing the activities of the Fulani herdsmen who are killing hundreds of thousands in the Northeast? They now want to establish 119 ranches. This is Ruga that was rejected. Ruga that was rejected. They're just going to go ahead under this fraudulent constitution. They're just going to go ahead. These Fulanese are going to go ahead to establish a colony in every state in Nigeria, starting with the Middle Belt. I'm not sure how many of you were aware of the change in the Constitution that we've been asking everyone to make sure that the House of Representatives and their politicians are standing against, to make these foreigners that are being brought in mass, and their hundreds of thousands, and given PVCs and given Nigerian citizenship under Ruga, to become indigents in your state. These terrorists, this Fulani government wants to make them indigenous into your state. And Nigeria will become a killing field of indigents, which is actually what is going on right now. So again, we're making the case for Nigerians to understand where we are, and for the international community to rise up. They must stop the complicity, because this information is out there. Any investigative journalism would unearth the information that we keep presenting week in and week out. There was an agreement in Nigeria. That agreement was truncated by the military. And so we find ourselves now living under apartheid. And so I'm going to let Honorable, who just joined us, to make a comment about what we're asking the West and the world to do to restore these indigenous nations, because we must do that to reap the benefits of this great nation that is under assault right now. Go ahead, welcome.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for your presence once here today. This is our weekly sittings where we try to inform, educate, and try to launch those ideas that will make people understand some realities, bitter realities in our place.
Everybody's now using this type of.
We've got somebody that is talking. Carol, can you please mute your line? I don't know if it's, let me just take a look here. Carol, please mute your line. You need to mute your line, please. Go ahead, Ogaraka.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it is of note, just like Jean, just like we have been preaching before now, that the indigenes of this nation are being subjected to a lot of betrayals. How can at least the law body we claim to have has rejected the idea of Ruga, and it is being presented in different names just to get it through? And even when the so-called National Assembly could not approve this, ranches is being launched different places in guise of, even if we're supposed to have ranches, why should these ranches be owned by foreigners or people from a different zone? Don't people in their different regions need meat? Can they cultivate livestock as what do you call it, cows? Why must cows be breeded only by Fulanis? And they must be given what do you call it, ranches in every part of Nigeria. Why that? Again, is that how come when we go to the east, they said it is Igbos and their surroundings, we know them. When we go to the west, it says it's Yorubas and their surroundings, we know them. Even when we go to the middle belt, we know the thief, the every other people, and we know who are around there. When we go to the north, we know it's supposed to be north. It's supposed to be houses. Why do we always have what is called Hausa Fulani? Soon we will have a Hausa middle belt, and then what they call a Fulani middle belt, and Fulani this area, Fulani that area. Why should this invasion continue? So what we're trying to say here is that the world, who will always rush there to the Ukraine and then put in all forms of arms to stop Russia from invading Ukraine, and who are going to stop everything doing to avoid China going against Taiwan, what's it called? Why are they leaving Africans to this type of suffering? Why? This is the question, why? Does it mean that all the cries and all the pronouncements and all the evidences that are seen in different international bodies doesn't make meaning to them? I seen yesterday, Scotland has announced possibilities of referendum on the 19th of October coming. Why can't African countries have a say on where you patch them to be? It is time. Enough of it. They said if peaceful resolution is impossible, is made impossible, violent revolution definitely will take a place. We don't want to slaughter ourselves because some people held us down. It is necessary for us to have a chance to dialogue and know what is obtainable for us. The system we have in Nigeria doesn't work. It doesn't save anybody. We know that. And the so-called election we are trying to conduct today, under the guise of this constitution, definitely is a prolongment of this agony that Nigerians are having today. That we know. So what's the way forward? There should be a need for a referendum for Nigeria to decide what they want. We cannot continue in this Ruga-ruled nation. Enough of that, and enough is enough. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much, Obaraku. One of the questions that you asked is, why is the world not stopping what's going on in Nigeria? Again, it's about false narratives. The false narratives that we hear is that it is corruption, right? We hear that corruption is the problem in Nigeria, but it isn't corruption. Then they say that herder-farmer conflict. Well, does that mean that the world is siding with these criminal and terrorist herders against the legal landowners? How is it possible that as of this age that it is not clear to all the intelligence in the world that these herders are causing a menace in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Ivory Coast, in Central African Republic? Same group of people, same terrorism. Why can they not have ranches like every other place in the world, buy the land? Why are they killing legal land owners and the world thinks that's okay? And then the third false narrative, I heard, I think in the House of Lords or Parliament in the UK, where he was talking about that the Fulanese are Nigerians, so it isn't apartheid or colonization, which is a damn lie. The Fulanese only arrived in Nigeria. They're migrants, they're foreigners. This is colonization. A simple study of history tells you that the Fulanese arrived in Nigeria, I think in the 19th century. At least Odman Danfodio did what he was doing, trying to conquer Nigeria in the early 19th century. And those that were indigenous have been on the land since before Christ, since BC. We saw that when we went back and did the history of the people of Nigeria, of the indigenous people of Nigeria, and the fact that they were advanced in their skills in iron works and bronze working and working with clay long before the white man came or the Arabs came. These supposedly savages were in fact, in a lot of instances, ahead of their counterparts, whether white, Arab, or Asian. So the Fulanese are foreigners, and anyone, especially that guy in the UK Parliament, or was it House of Lords, I don't remember which that he was, that is talking about the fact that these Fulanese are indigenous. There's no such thing as a House of Fulani. No tribe exists that is called House of Fulani. That was put in there to trick the Nigerians into believing that the Fulanese are from Nigeria. They are not. And I will let somebody else talk about that. Stephen, you want to talk about the origin of the Fulanis? Because this is important for our Nigerians to understand and for the international community to understand that we know the facts and we are not ready to be sitting back and allowing them to be spreading false narratives, which is killing the indigenous Nigerians to the tune of, just in the Northeast, 350,000 as of last year, a figure released by the United Nations itself. Stephen, can you please talk to us about the Fulani? And I see Aita, you've joined us as well. Let's just talk about the origin of the Fulanis, because this is important. It is important for the world to know this, and for our people to know this as well, to know that migrants have captured our government. Migrants have captured our constitution. Migrants are killing us and bringing in their brothers and sisters, their terrorists and criminal brothers and sisters from around Africa into Nigeria to kill you and to displace you from the land. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you, ma'am. You know, I was not really surprised at the ignorance of the British Parliament in saying that the Fulanis are indigenous to Nigeria. we need to recognize in general that there is a symbiotic relationship between the nomadic, I use that term with emphasis, between the nomadic Fulani tribes in Nigeria and the British monarch. And I'm saying that with a further boldness, okay? That symbiotic relationship permits the British monarch to perpetuate his colonialism agenda beyond independence. And on the other hand, it allows the nomadic Fulani tribes that originated from the Futajalon mountains of Guinea to take over almost, albeit systematically, the indigenous people of Nigeria, to make Nigeria the Fulani capital of Africa. Historically, in the annals of history, just like you alluded, the indigenous Nigerian tribes have predated the incursion of the British expeditioners, the Mongo Parks and Co. When they came in, they found the traditionals all along the banks of the River Niger. I don't know how many of us read the story of Mongo Park. The missionaries that came, and then the colonial masters, the slaves, the slave traders that came to the coast of Africa. We had established the civilization of our tribes, of the majority Yoruba on the west, the majority Igbo on the east, and all the smaller ethnic tribes all the way south of the river Niger. North of that were the majority Hausa tribes. There was never, I'm saying never, through the annals of history into the 1500s of history, that the Fulani had any history. No, the Fulani originated, they're a nomadic tribe of Arabs actually, that migrated into the Futajalon mountains of Guinea from North Africa. They, in the early 1800s, the gentleman, I can't even use the term gentleman, a nomadic vagrant, yes, by the name of Othman Dan Fodio, whose parents migrated from Guinea into Sokoto in northern Nigeria, actually started the conquest using the Islamic religion as a guise. And that's the same guise that he has used and his descendants have used to conquer the Fulanis and turned around to make the Fulani, to conquer the Hausas. I'm sorry, to conquer the Hausas and make the Hausas a minority race in northern Nigeria. So we should not be surprised, in answer to the question that was being asked by Honorable earlier on, and to which you alluded to, that the global community is looking the other way. The global community is looking the other way because it serves, the chaos serves the economic interest. It's very easy to say, in particular, that the Nigerian government is complicit in all the atrocities. Yes, the Nigerian government is complicit in the atrocities because it is masterminding, the implementation of the Fulani agenda, which is to colonize Nigeria and make Nigeria the Fulani capital. On a larger scale, the British government and the British monarch in tow, from before the independence, had positioned itself to continue to perpetrate the slave trade and the colonial activities, while on the surface, it appears to have granted independence to the indigenous tribes, when in fact, it had just transferred power to a nomadic tribe that is not intelligent enough, or let me better by saying a nomadic tribe that is too cognitively challenged to understand what the British are doing just because they know the British will help them to fulfill the agenda. So when we talk about the global community not looking there, it's because it serves their economic interest. And the British government is complicit in it.
Absolutely.
I hold no reservation whatsoever.
Absolutely.
So whenever we talk about bandits, tribesmen, well, we're going to roll it up all the way to the Nigerian government, which has been infiltrated by the Fulanis. Now, when I use the term nomadic, it may sound very far-fetched. It is not. When you look at the history, as far back as recently as 2011, you've read in the history recently that there are at least three West African countries now where the Fulanis have actually taken over government. They did the same thing. See, they come in initially peaceably, and then they infiltrate the tribes. And for generically, West Africans in general, the indigenous Nigerians in particular are very, very hospitable and welcoming. And that's why we welcome these tribes when they came in. Believe me, they caught us all by surprise, because when I was growing up as a little boy, oh my goodness, these people were so very friendly. We lived together in my father's farm in harmony. But they were systematically just infiltrating the culture to a point where they've gotten into every nooks and corners of our culture. They're now able to state themselves in. So we know, and history is replete with evidence, that the Fulanis are not indigenous to Nigeria. They are a nomadic tribe of vagrants from the Futajalo mountain, and let history remain as it is. And in fact, to say just one more word on that, they are trying to erase history by removing the study of history from the school curriculum in Nigeria. And I think that has been the case since Obasanjo became president in 1998.
Yeah, Obasanjo has been very, very, very bad for Nigerians, for indigenous Nigerians. He took so many actions that directly hurt the indigents. He did everything that his Fulani masters asked him to do. And so that's part of the reason I get very irritated when he's out here talking about Atiku and talking about this. Oh, apparently Atiku, let's see, what did he say? Atiku is the one that deceived him into giving away Nigeria territory to the Cameroons. This is what he said. I think that this is from like yesterday or the day before that I saw that information. Obasanjo was absolutely complicit in selling out the indigents to the Fulanese and the British and the British lords. And if this is a question of a case of the kettle calling the pot black, right? When they are of the same blood. So thank you very much for that. So if anyone else wants to make a comment about the Fulanis, these are facts, Nigerians, indigenous Nigerians. These are facts. The Fulani are migrants to Nigeria. They are not indigenous. They are foreigners to the land. Okay, all the excavations, they did not arrive until the late 18th to early 19th century. Okay, the 18th century. And we, the indigenous Nigerians, have been on the land since BC. And we went over this, like I said, we've gone over this before from BC. And we had established civilizations, as we talked about. So we are going to move on from that but this is really important. It is important for the world, and we're talking to the UK, we're talking to the US, we're talking to President Biden, we're talking to Germany, we're talking to the EU Council, we're talking to the UN, we're talking to Antonio Guterres, who came to Nigeria and endorsed the integration of terrorists, foreign terrorists into Nigeria. 35,000 that Zulum brought into, Zulum is Borno, see Borno, see Zamfara, Borno state, right? 35,000 at one time. And these are all mercenaries. These are all from outside of Nigeria, and they brought them in. So we are standing with Ninas, you know, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalist Alliance for Self-Determination. We're standing with the Yoruba Global Directorate. We're standing with the Ilana Omodua. We're standing with the Middle Belt Forum. We're standing with the Ijaw people. We're standing with the Biram people, with those from Taraba, with all of them from the, you know, from the South, the Southeast, the Southwest, and the Middle Belt, to say categorically, we did not make this constitution. And the proof is in the fact that we had these regions that were autonomous. And that even prior to that being put in place, the British were aware and discussed the fact that a unitary Nigeria, a one Nigeria, will not work, which is why we're seeing the horrors that we are seeing in Nigeria right now with the Fulanis that the British have always supported from the very beginning. Balade, you can go ahead, and then we're going to move on to the benefits of restoring this indigenous nations. We're going to talk about that because it's important, you know, to know. You know, we've talked about what is causing all this turmoil, what is causing the genocide, what is causing the terrorism, what is causing, you know, people being displaced and having people in IDP camps where they are living in squalid conditions, while the government is using the money to bring in foreign Fulanis, put them on the land for free that does not belong to them, give them citizenship, give them guns, because it's only the Fulani terrorists and herdsmen and Boko Haram and ISWAP that are allowed to carry guns in Nigeria. And so now I am going to make a call out, because we don't have Citizen AY here. I'm going to make out a call out to all indigenous Nigerians. Go to your governors. We see that the Borono has put a law in place for people to carry weapons and go after these bandits who we know are Fulanese. And Autumn put one in place, I think it was in 2021. Every indigenous Nigerian must go to their governor, their House of Representative member, their senators, and demand that their state, from the Middle Belt to the South, put these laws in place that allows the vigilante, which are the security groups, to carry the arms to combat and save lives. In addition, they must demand that the federal government and or the state government put farming guards in place to protect the farmers against these Fulani herdsmen who are criminals. They're criminals. They have no legal rights to the land. And so the international community must stop this false narrative, must stop saying things that support criminals that they will not support in their own country. Enough is enough. Go ahead, Balade.
I think we said recently that was it 12 states in the north? I think it was them that did it.
12 states have gone to Sharia.
And they put Sharia. Then by that, by doing that, the Nigerian constitution is now null and void.
Yes, well, they have seceded.
That's what I mean.
Yes, they have seceded because Nigeria is a circular state. And if you look in that 1999 so-called constitution, which is actually Military Decree 24, you will find Islam all over that constitution.
Yeah. So
in violation of the fact that this is a circular state. They even have Hishba. They even have a police.
Yeah.
They have a police, while those in the Middle Belt to the South are languishing. They do not have their own police, but they have Hishba, which is an Islamic police.
Yeah.
They have Sharia courts.
Yeah.
So how are other Nigerians living in those places supposed to function? We saw what last year and this year where Hishba went and destroyed all the alcohol, right?
Yeah, they were
belonging to other citizens of Nigeria, even though they enjoy the VAT from the sales of that alcohol.
But the same Ishba, in the middle of the night, they go to these places and drink the alcohol anyway.
Absolutely.
There's a place called Pleasure Island. They call
it
Pleasure Island in Kano State. Yeah. It's outside the wall. They're the police in the day. Then at night, they're coming to drink alcohol at night.
Right.
That's what they do.
So it's important for our people to understand this, right? I mean, it's extremely important for us to understand what's going on in Nigeria. But it's not just for us to know, indigenous Nigerians. Everywhere you are, whatever country that you are in, you need to be talking about the fact of the killings that is going on in Nigeria on a daily basis, from the Middle Belt to the South. It is everywhere on a daily basis. What's going on in the Southeast and Imo State, it is unconscionable. It is unconscionable that this government has not stood up to do anything, and especially for the state governments to be sitting down and letting indigenous Nigerians be killed in that manner. It is unconscionable. And anyone, anywhere that talks about herder-farmer conflict, they are complicit. They are actually part of the killings of innocent indigenous Nigerians. Because a herder-farmer conflict means that you are supporting this criminal Fulani militia, the number 3 or 4 terrorist group on the global terrorist index. You are supporting them. And I would hate to believe that that is what the West, the Asians, and the Arabs think is the right thing to do. Or that they should be integrating these criminals into Nigeria because they want to take it over. Okay, so let's continue on what we're talking about, the benefits. Let's talk about the benefits of putting these indigenous nations into place, okay? Let's talk about the benefits of this. So we have one of the benefits. Ruby, can you please, whoever is unmuted, please mute them. We're gonna talk about the first benefit. We're gonna talk about ending genocide in Nigeria. Is genocide going on in Nigeria? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Ruby, are you there? We need to mute everyone, please. Let's mute everyone, anyone that is unmuted.
Yeah, I'm trying that, but they're not muting.
Okay, if they're not muting, put them in the waiting room until that they come in muted. So just put them in the waiting room. Thank you. Okay, first of all, genocide is going on in Nigeria. In 2021, as we keep telling the world, the United Nations, here is that picture here, the United Nations came up with an updated list. So instead of the 35,000 that they've been talking about dead, they said 350,000 dead in Nigeria, in the Northeast alone. The government in Nigeria has been suppressing the reporting of these numbers. And in fact, most recently have come up with the now disingenuous reporting for the reporters to, instead of saying Southern Kaduna, where the Christians are, they now reported as simply Kaduna. That is complicity of this government, because nothing is happening in Northern Kaduna. Everything is happening in Southern Kaduna, where ethnic cleansing is going on, where the government is complicit, where the government never arrives to help the people. And when the people try to defend themselves, the government comes to stop them from doing so. That is happening in Kaduna, it's happening in Benue, it's happening all over the Middle Belt. And now it has moved to the Southeast and the Southwest. And we hear now that it is headed to the South. The Fulanese are in your forest. Indigenous Nigerians demand that your governors, your senators, and the House of Representative members put up armed groups to go into your forest and rid your forest of those foreign Fulanese. Buhari have told them that those people carrying AK-47s are foreign Fulanese. But Buhari has done nothing to stop them from coming in. All he's doing is promising them ranches, free citizenship, free jobs. As we saw Benue state governor accusing the Nigerian government of putting Boko Haram into positions of power. And we're going to take a look soon to take a look and see who is actually, when we're talking about apartheid, what that actually looks like. So I'll let somebody else talk about the genocide that's going on in Nigeria. Ogarako, did you want to make a comment on that? You can unmute and you can talk about some recent events, including all the priests that have been kidnapped and killed in recent times.
When we say genocide, what do we really mean? It is when a group of people who are either in complicities of the law enforcement agents are there to intimidate people, either by incarceration or killing, in order to intimidate them, either to give them what belongs to them or leave them space for them. The killing, as we see it today, first of all, is not the culture of these indigenous citizens we have today. The way people are killed and how people has made bushes and hiding places as a place of abode is never part of our system we know before now. Genocide is an attempt or instrument used to intimidate people, sack them from their indigenous spaces, take it over, not just sacking them, take it over, and then establish their life in it. We are in a nation, or we are in a country where the system of government is to protect the right of the citizens. But unfortunately, I don't know what the present government, who they call citizens. Is it the indigenous or the invaders? Because if it is the citizens, we should have been able to have all these menace, a bold step to stop it. But there's none, not even one. How can a nation that is not at war have 4 million people in IDP?
6 million.
Why? And when will these people in IDP get back to their homes? That's the question. And why are they there? How long will they be there? And how long have they been before now?
They have been there for years and years and years and deployed.
And there's no program to take them back to their home because somebody has taken it, renamed it, changed it, changed the directions, and their people are not protected. And even in the so-called IPD, it's not as if to say they are protected.
Right.
That is genocide. That is invasion. And this is not, should not, and must not continue in a place in the 21st century called the civilized, what you call it, called the democratic nation. The world, well, Nigeria is part of almost all the international bodies, from African Unity to United Nations to UNESCO, all those institutions that defend human rights. Why are they silent? That's the question. Should they say they do not know? Look at the killing of the religious, killing of citizens of all forms, and the Middle Belt is only a killing ground.
Yes.
Now, most of the Nigerian roads today are no longer flightable. I was told that you cannot travel even from Kaduna to Kano. You have to go through other ways.
Right.
And now somebody is there claiming to be in government. Look at IDPs. In a place that there's no declaration of war. Look at how people are living. Just look
and
at
yet, they're building 119 ranches in the Middle Belt for terrorists. Fulani terrorists being brought in under Ruga and open borders.
And the issue is that these people are not people that can share with you. They are not there to live with you.
No,
they are there to dominate you. They are there to kill you. Then why should we force them into the people? That's the question. Is institutional genocide? It is killing. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable in any way. I honestly join my voice to that of many to remind the United Nations that they should not send us Red Cross tomorrow, saying that they're here to save this. They should not send us any humanitarian group tomorrow because this is avoidable. It can be avoided. To avoid them is now. It should not be tomorrow. Again, we don't have what is called constitution because everything that the constitution is supposed to be represented have been foiled in Nigeria. From Islamic states to Islamic institutions created here and there, by taking over even the even giving us an Islamic judge, chief judge. I mean, where do we start, please? Where?
Well, let's move on because we're going to talk about apartheid, once we talk about, genocide, because once you restore the nations, then they will be responsible. They will start protecting their people. They are handicapped under unitary Nigeria, under one Nigeria. Okay, because the term one Nigeria has been bastardized to be indissoluble, what was that? What was the other word that they used? Indivisible. Nigeria, the agreement in 1960 for independence was for regional autonomy. There has been no agreement made since then. None. No agreement made since then to change that. And even prior to 1960, it was established that the unitary form of government would not benefit, and will result in the chaos and the absolute misuse of natural resources and the abuse of political power. Where I saw something that talked about what Tinubu is paying himself. 300% of his salary, plus another 100% of his salary, plus 6 policemen for himself and his family, plus 6 cars every 2 years or whatever that is. Okay, so the political class have been set up in a corrupt system, so that the indigenous people, the citizens, the masses who should be benefiting are living in poverty, 100 million in poverty. And so the world can say, oh, it is corruption. No, the corruption is in the Constitution. Because if you remove that Constitution and even just reintroduce the old constitutions, amended, of course, for what we have today, all of that will be eliminated. And so citizens must arise. Citizens, you need to understand. And I understand that, Peter Obi is an honest man. But the likelihood of him becoming the president of Nigeria under the rule that we have in the Constitution is not very high. And I'm going to find that information when we talk about apartheid. I'll find that information to show you how the president can become president in Nigeria if you have 3 or more candidates. They have skewed that, even that in the Constitution, to see that Fulani person will win. Okay, like I said, first of all the Fulanis have moved over to PDP, and all the delegates were paid. And if the world says that they did not see that paying, it was done in public. They were counting the money. They were handing out the dollars to delegates, and these delegates were not even selected by the people. So the people cannot even select their own representative, their own presidential candidates. They cannot even do that in this Constitution. That is not a democracy, but it's apartheid to oppress the indigenous people. Okay, so let's move on. So ending genocide is one of the benefits, and that is important, obviously, to our people, to end this genocide that is going on by the Fulani people. And I flashed up where the governor made it clear, we know who these bandits are. They are Fulani people. And Buhari has said, these Fulanese, he said that in 2021, I believe, these Fulanese are from Mauritania. These Fulanese are from Central African Republic. But Buhari, they are your kinsmen. Why have you not sent them out? Why have you not issued an order that every single one of them should be disarmed? Why have you not sent in your people into the forest to send them back to the country? That's because you have Ruga, which was rejected, but you're still operating under. So Buhari, I ask you, under what law are you building 119 ranches in the Northeast where your kinsmen are killing the indigents indiscriminately on a daily basis. What law allows you to do that? Okay, so let's see other images of what's going on, the genocide that's going on in the US. They've been talking about that. And Nigeria has been described as a world epicenter of jihadi violence, and Christian persecution is at catastrophic levels. Let's make it clear. This is not a Christian-Muslim fight. No. This is a Christian, moderate Muslim, and jihadists, extremist jihadists, as you find in Afghanistan, as you find in Syria, as you find in Iran, extremist jihadists. And with them being this Fulani and Boko Haram, they travel. They're not going to stay within the walls of Nigeria to kill off everyone. They are spreading across West Africa, and they will come to your, and you know, the world needs to be listening. There's over 200 million people in Nigeria. When the refugee crisis really kicks up, where do you think they're coming to? And at that time, how are you going to contain this menace that you are allowing to run rampant right now? Because the UN Special Rapporteur in 2019 and 2020 indicated that the constitutional arrangement in Nigeria was a pressure cooker for injustice. She specifically, Agnes Callamard, named that constitutional arrangement. To name that constitutional arrangement, which is why in 2020, December 16th, NINAS, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalist Alliance for Self-Determination, declared the constitutional force majeure to end that constitution. And that's why NINAS is also calling for no elections. Ilana Omodua is calling for no elections. And a lot of other prominent people in Nigeria have understood that these elections are not going to go the way we want them to go, because the Fulani are in charge of INEC, they're in charge of the census, they're in charge of the PVCs, they're in charge of the borders. And we have credible information that has been coming out in the past few months of the fact that children 8 years old, we've seen them all have PVCs, and they're counting those numbers, 8 years old. That people from Chad, that's a different country, Niger Republic, and other surrounding countries, and I mean Fulani when I say people, Fulanis, they all have Nigerian PVCs. They all have voting cards, Nigerian voting cards. These are foreigners that their votes are being counted in Nigeria. How in heck do you get an election that is anywhere close to being fair when the underlying structure is already broken, the underlying structure is already compromised, and the migrant Fulani have the indigents in an existential chokehold? Cannot happen. Okay. So what are the other things that we talked about? End genocide and jihad is going to be one of the key benefits, because as the Agnes Callamard told the world, this violence that you're letting go of in Nigeria, it's going to spill out outside of Nigeria and will take down the whole continent. And if it's taking down the continent, guess you think the world is going to be, the rest of the world is going to be safe? I'm telling you, no, it won't. We had the Fulanese from 16 countries get together in Nigeria. 16 countries get together in Nigeria. So indigenous Nigerians need to wake up. Because while I'm not against Peter Obi, and he has great credentials, you need to be ready for what is already in the Constitution to make the kind of decisions where you have, like what we saw in Imo, where we have a Supreme Court governor, person that came in fourth became governor in Imo State, the Supreme Court governor. That's the kind of thing that happens in Nigeria. Okay, so what else? So let's talk about who are these perpetrators? Who are the perpetrators, right? Fulani, Boko Haram, ISIS, ISWAP, mainly Fulani. So they have partnered up. And the Buhari government is complicit. I think we had the quote last week. We had the quote last week talking about what Bernard Henri Levy said in 2021 after he released the book The Will to See, where he specifically called out the Buhari government. Again, everything that we're talking about here, all we're doing is sharing this information. We're bringing it together for indigenous Nigerians to see and understand what is going on. Because when you see the news, it's coming at you one at a time. We bring it together for you here. Freedom from Nigeria, so you understand exactly what is going on. So if anyone wants to talk about genocide, if not, we're going to move on to apartheid because we want to get to the discussion on the economic benefits, okay? So ending apartheid, what I have up here on the left-hand side, this here, we're talking about presidents from the north, Senate president from the north, and by that we mean Fulani, chief of staff Fulani, SGF Fulani, INEC chairman Fulani, chief justice of the federation Fulani, Federal Court of Appeal Fulani, EFCC chairman Fulani, president Federal High Court Fulani, national security advisor Fulani, inspector general of police Fulani, chief of army staff Fulani, chief of air staff Fulani, controller customs service Fulani, defense minister Fulani, MD port authority Fulani, MD NDIC Fulani, controller prison services Fulani, controller of immigration Fulani, controller of fire service Fulani, highest looter the north, richest man in Africa, where he was given monopolies for cement, for rice, that was taken from indigenous Nigerians and given to a Fulani. 85% of petroleum marketers in Nigeria are northerners. 80% of oil block owners in Nigeria are northerners. They don't even, the oil is in the south, and the south doesn't even have a working refinery. This is apartheid. If you're looking for another definition of apartheid, look no further. This is apartheid. Let's take a look at who our presidents have been. Right? We had, on here, we have Nnamdi Azikiwe in 63 to 66. Agui Ronsi was a short period of time in 66. Gowan, who was a northerner from 66 to 1975, unfortunately, he was not bright enough to recognize that he was being used against his own people. Then Murtala Mohammed, 75 to 76, northerner, Fulani. Obasanjo, and we've already talked about Obasanjo, how bad he was. And we'll talk about him again for the indigenous Nigerians, but as a military man from 76 to 79. Shehu Shagari, 79 to 83, Fulani. Buhari, 83 to 85, Fulani. Babangida, 85 to 93. And then we had a very short, brief period of time at the interim was Shonoken. That was like a few months. Then we go back to Fulani, 1993 to 1998. Abdus Salam, that's the one that put in place that fraudulent 1999 constitution, which really was Military Decree 24, Fulani, June 1998 to May 1999. And then Obasanjo took over in 1999 to 2007 and did extreme damage to indigents, allowing Sharia and allowing all manner of things against indigents. Then we go back to Fulani again, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, 2007 to 2010. As you can see, there is a clear-cut apartheid where the North, really Fulani, have a chokehold on the leadership in Nigeria. They have a chokehold where the middle belt to the South have always been the bridesmaid and never really the brides, except if you are complicit. But there's barely, take a look at the names in recent days, recent years. They're all Northerners, they're all Fulani. This is what is called apartheid. This is anti-democracy, where people have to be begging to be zoned. So I'm going to stop here, introduce the subject. Let's have a couple of people. Stephen, do you want to put a little bit of color to this discussion on apartheid and what's going on? Aita, I see that you're there. I don't know if you're in a place where you can unmute. If you want to contribute, just raise your hand. Eugene, I don't know if you have fixed your bandwidth. And I see Paul has joined us. Paul Ibekeme, you're welcome. If you want to make a comment, you can go ahead and raise your hand as well, and you can do so. We are looking at the evidence of apartheid. I'm going to let Balade make a quick comment. Let's
it's a quick comment. I don't want to be dominated. I keep on taking over things like this. We forgot to say the central bank, governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, because that is a very important one.
Oh, there's a lot of it. This is just a handful. There's a much longer list that we have. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And for the outside world, and again, I keep saying that our people need to be screaming this on the mountaintop until everyone hears it. There is apartheid going on in Nigeria by the Fulani, aided by the British. The British actually skewed everything from the beginning, giving them 52%, milling the Fulanis, turning a blind eye to this change from what was agreed to this, and then putting out all kinds of false narratives. It is up to us indigenous Nigerians, whether you're at home or abroad, to make sure that this information is disseminated. Shame on the Western world, the world in general, for continuing to think that it's okay for herder-farmer conflict conversation when the herders have no legitimate claim to the land. None. They're criminals. They're terrorists. So I'll let somebody else talk about this apartheid. Honorable, were you going to make a comment? Because I saw that you had unmuted. If you wanted to make a comment, Paul, Ibeakeme, do you want to make a comment, or Stephen? If not, we will be moving on to talk about the economic benefits, where Stephen is going to talk to us about that. So I don't see any hands. Eugene, doesn't seem like you fixed your situation. So again, apartheid is going on in Nigeria. And now let's talk about the economic benefits that we're going to reap by having, here is this information here that I pulled up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to kind of talk a little bit about the economic benefits. If you take a look here, let me make this a little smaller so that it can be seen. Thank you, Ruby, for finding this. When you look at the GDP of Nigeria from 2012 to 2020, this just goes to 2020, you can see something remarkable. In 2015, you can see, just looking at the graph, here is 20, right there, you see 2016, right? 2015 right there. From 2014, you see 2015, and then look at what's happening under Buhari, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and in 2020. Nigeria has been in egregious decline. Nigeria has not even been able to, what was the information that came out? I think it was less than a month ago, that 80% of the oil is being stolen. So this government cannot protect the indigents, not cannot, will not, I think is what is being said now. They will not. The government cannot protect the oil, or will not, because that's the numbers that they're giving us, because that's a Fulani person at NNPC, right? So what exactly is the benefits of having this Fulanis ruling Nigeria into the ground, invading Nigeria to the indigents? What the indigents are facing is death and poverty. Death and poverty. So I'm going to turn it over now to Stephen.
Thank you.
So
Thank
talk
you,
to us, Stephen.
Thank
What are
you,
going to
ladies
be
and
the
gentlemen.
benefits of regional autonomy, of reestablishing the nations compared to what we are facing right now, which is the dregs of the whole world?
I want to say for starters that the unitary government that we didn't plan for, but that's been pushed upon us for the better part or the most part of our history as a nation of indigents is very, very inefficient. Very inefficient ideologically and very inefficient philosophically. You don't even need to look too far. It is very inefficient ideologically because we know two heads are better than one. And because two heads are better than one, and we have one uneducated head, the Fulani nomadic head that has been running the government for all the better part of its independent history, we see where it has taken us. We also know, I'm proud to be a Christian, and my Bible tells me that there is wisdom in the multitude of counsels. Because we have a unitary government where the federalism of the regional states are not being given permission to participate, the wisdom of the multitude is not there. Hence, the degradation in the social and economic fabric of the indigenous states. I will not fool myself by saying there are no economic benefits to the unitary government. There is. It's benefiting the Fulanis, and it's benefiting the British monarch, who are the ones that are really getting anything from it. But for the majority of the indigents of the Nigeria that God did not create, there is zero. If I can go worse than that, I will. There is zero benefit to the unitary system of government. Now, we use a term in finance, which simply stated that the whole is less than the sum of its parts. When you hear that a company is breaking up, you've heard about AT&T.
Everybody, please mute your line. Eugene, mute your line, please.
You've heard about the General Electrics of the world breaking into pieces. These were conglomerates made of non-homogeneous products, and because their products are not homogeneous, they are not the same. There is inherent inefficiency in administering those. That's exactly the picture of Nigeria. If you wonder how I can make the analogy between a corporation and Nigeria, well, there's no difference. Okay, there's no difference, and the reason there's no difference is that Nigeria or any other country, for that matter, is simply a municipal corporation. It doesn't pay taxes. What is the goal of the corporation? To maximize the returns to shareholder wealth. On the other, by the same token, the goal of the country is to maximize the quality of life of all its citizens through equitable distribution of all its resources. Now, the operative word there is equitable. Can anybody tell me if anything has been equitable in the distribution of Nigeria's wealth, with 1,500 of the elites taking 80% of the national wealth into their salaries and benefits, and the rest of us having to deal with a 20%? So you can see why I use the analogy of the corporation. Now, continue with that analogy. I use the finance principle that the whole is less than the sum of its parts. Nigeria as a whole, because Nigeria as a whole, because it consists of heterogeneous components, or better yet, heterogeneous tribes. Igbos in the southeast, Yorubas in the southwest, the Hausas in the north. That's the way God created us in the beginning, until the British came and put us together as one. We needed to have a corporate spin-off a long time ago. But because the British will still benefit from us being put together to continue their colonial agenda, they put the Fulanis in place, who want to use that as a tool to fulfill their agenda to colonize Nigeria. What are we've lived in most of our history saying what the negative benefit of a unitary government is. What are the benefits of a spin-off? By spinning off, which is essentially what we are using the term self-determination into indigenous countries. Well, the point is, each indigenous tribe of Nigeria has its own wealth of human resources and natural resources. Even the North, as uneducated as they are, the only group that does not have anything is the nomadic tribe of the Fulanis that is continuously ravaging the economy and the society. I can say in one sentence that there are no social economic benefits to a unitary government, but there are immense socio-economic benefits to self-determination and freedom from Nigeria. Number one, there is the psychological benefit to the citizens of being masters of their own fate. It's a matter of national pride to say that I'm a citizen of Yoruba land, I'm a citizen of Igbo land, and I'm in my father's land. Secondly, economically, because I am in control of my father's land, I have a natural incentive to preserve those resources. The Fulanis have no title to this land. I'll borrow another term from the Bible. It says, the thief comes but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Because the Fulani has no title to this land, it doesn't care what happens. That's why in the southeast now, where all the natural, liquefied natural gas and all the oil is being pillaged, nobody cares about salvaging the environment for doing any environmental remediation. Why? The country doesn't belong to them. They don't even live anywhere near there, so they don't have any incentive. Whereas once we become free from Nigeria, you have the people of the southeast running their own government. Then, of course, they can concentrate on the environmental remediation, which brings to mind a few years ago, I think no more than 3. I read a story that the U.S. court actually granted a judgment to the people of the southeast to force Shell Oil Company to do some environmental remediation in the southeast. Whether they have done that or not, I don't know. They were supposed to have set up some funds. Even if they have set up the funds never get into the treasury of the southeast. He went to the north, in the central governing authority of the Fulanis. The Fulanis don't care. They take all the money and send it to the Niger Republic, where the so-called Buhari president hails from.
Absolutely.
Another, the benefits of freedom from Nigeria for the Southwest, which has been the agricultural mainstay of the regional government of Nigeria, was that you have the peace to be able to move around and cultivate and do mechanized farming. We do have a large inventory of brain drain of southwestern and southeastern Nigerians in the diaspora that are contributing immensely to the economy. The benefit is that if you're able to be free from the contraption called Nigeria, where we are a self-determining body, then of course we're in a good position to plan our country as owners of the land. We are able to set our priorities for what we need, such as set the power infrastructure, set the water infrastructure, set the systems of rules and regulation that ensures, and in fact, I can say that guarantees peace and prosperity. Because if there's anything, if we are self-determining, that interferes with peace and prosperity, the system of punishment will be in place to make sure that we remedy that immediately. That's not the case. There's one set of rules for the Fulanis who are not indigenous to the country, and a set for the rest of us. The rest of us are law-abiding citizens who are not allowed to carry arms, but the non-indigenous vagrant nomads are able to carry AK-47s all around in public highways because they need it to protect their cow. So if they're able to carry the AK-47s to protect the cows, that tells me the cows are more important than the indigenous citizens of the contraption called Nigeria, who are being prevented from peacefully and safely farming their communities to provide goods and services for their economy. A final among many benefits is the opportunity to stand in the international community as tribes of intellectually superior, and I use that term without apology, intellectually superior tribes of southern Nigerians. Because when you go anywhere in the world and you find out Nigerians are doing this, Nigerians are doing that, excelling in this area or that, medicine, engineering, business, law, and all the other professions, believe me, 99.99%, it is not the northerners. I challenge anybody to go check the statistics. Go anywhere in the world where Nigerians are excelling and making meaningful contributions to those societies. It is 99.9% southern Nigerians. So that means once we go as separate nations, once we are self-determining, the glory of our tribes, the glory of our Yoruba tribe, the glory of Igbo tribes that we have enjoyed long before the Europeans came to our country, then of course we'll be open to the population of Europeans who only see what the biased media wants them to see as only a bunch of credit card and drug pushing Nigerians, when in fact the majority of us make more meaningful contributions and continue to make more meaningful contributions to the development of their societies. Thank you very much, and I can add more later on.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. I mean, we have seen in the United States where outside of the Indians, it is the Nigerians. And when you take a look, you see a lot of Nigerians from the Southwest, from the Southeast, the South Side, from the Middle Belt, all making a name in the United States. Same thing in Canada, same thing in the United Kingdom, and in fact, around the world. You find them as doctors, they're attorneys, they're accountants, they're nuclear physicists, right? This is what you will find around the globe. So even in Nigeria today, the way that it is, the mathematics champion, I think I showed her a picture the last time that we were talking about the heritage of the Nigerian people, was a young Nigerian girl. I'm trying to remember if she was Igbo or Yoruba, I can't remember that. Vaccines in the US, Nigerians were there. So I see Engineer Efoto has raised his hand. You can go ahead and make your comment. We're getting ready to close in a few minutes here, but go ahead and introduce yourself and make your comment.
Okay, good evening from Nigeria.
You are quite welcome.
Colleague from Port Harcourt. Yes, we've been hearing all what we have been discussing and saying in this platform are the truth. Everything is true. And I've once said it too, that for those of you who are outside, you are really lucky because we look at us who are here to be under a spell that we know that things are wrong. We know that everything is so bad and we continue swimming in it and without a clue of how to come out of it. It's just like people living in a dungeon and the doors are open for them to go out, but they can't find the open space, the open gate, and identify it on how to move on. That is how the scenario looks like from my own analysis. You go into the offices, nobody, even the people calling themselves legislators or whatsoever, politicians, in spite of all the stolen wealth and looting, they are not happy. And they are still saying the government, the government. So I mean, who is the government? Yeah, the government is bad. We're just pointing one finger to one direction. But in the actual sense, almost everybody is part of it. Now, election is coming. Nena is of the opinion that there should be no election. And how do we enforce the people who are like living in this mess, celebrating it, and be feeling as if somebody's going to pull them out and push into a new kingdom without an action? I see the world power or whatever we can call them, they are benefiting, because you ask a question, who are benefiting? They are the one benefiting greatly from the entire mess in the country called Nigeria. You are seeing it more. We travel once in a while. I remember when I was in France, almost all their ships, what they call it, all of them are carrying Nigeria flag with tankers loading gas from Nigeria. Do you want them to support you to get an intelligent president? No way. They must have to let the fool triumph so that they can continue to live on the stupidity of the type of governance we have in our country. You just mentioned that the oil is based in the south, but the south doesn't even know the color of the oil. Neither are able to tell you what they do with the oil. Unfortunately, the refineries, they cannot manage it because they fight themselves. It is the Southern that pushes good luck out of power. So they are just like selfish reason. They want to buy jet. The country has no carrier, but the numbers of jet in this country is more than when the country has a carrier. Individuals now own 4 or 5 jets, and they are celebrating them. They are clapping for them. So my own view about is that how can you help? So you are already trying. Well, you both tried so much. But I begin to wonder the numbers of people participating in this meeting begin to diminish by weeks, by every week. But there's something that happened during this week. I stumbled into the Yoruba Kingdom. being accepted by the, what they call them, the UPO, one by Professor Banji Akintoye came up and so what is known as, because that is a move. If all the other, and that looks like, if you look at the MENA's map, it looks like one of the region, Yoruba region, has declared that. Can't other region, the middle belt region, go about doing it? And when we say hands down, and we talk to the governors of this region, actually the presidency has no power. We just think they have that power. The power belongs to the people. If the people hands down, they have no control. The military cannot come to people's house and start pulling them out to come to the office. But a situation whereby the people are struggling to be a friend to a Fulani so that they can survive in their sad here. They just sold themselves. They want to be in fact, a handshake and a smile from an idiot Fulani gives them a big hug to their wife here. You see, I shook hands with the presidency.
Right.
Thereby excluding their people. So this
if you can wrap up so that we can.
In summary is that the life we can put into realizing this referendum. What type of injection can we inject into our people to bring life into them to go about, say, okay, let's go for a referendum instead of going for registration? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's one of the things that I was just sharing, actually. This is a fact that needs to be communicated to our people. And I'm not, at this point, the Peter Obi movement and the, Atiku shenanigans with his running mate and the fact that they bypassed the unanimous VP again, a Southerner is going to be a bridesmaid to the Fulani bride, right? That's kind of what it's been in Nigeria, that the migrant Fulani, and I keep mentioning that the migrant Fulani are always going to be president. They're always going to be leading. So the northern elders, read Fulani elders, can say, oh, we're not going to relinquish power, because we have the numbers. You have the numbers with Chad, Mali, and Niger, and 8-year-olds having PVCs, and being allowed to vote in the north. And so this information is here for everyone to be able to disseminate. You don't have to, we were talking about the fact that the 2023 election must be shut down, but people need to know why. We're not talking about boycott. We've been shut down. Why are we saying this? Well, Section 134(2) gives 3 conditions for someone to be declared president when you have more than 2 candidates, which we have right now. And it's up to them to determine, because they control all of this, guys, is getting 25% of votes in 24 states, or getting 25% of votes in the federal capital, or getting the highest of all total votes cast in the 36 states. When you look at these numbers, you can tell kind of what's going to happen. And it's not going to be favorable to the Southern candidates or to the Labour Party. This is a fact that the 1999 quote unquote Constitution, which is AKA Military Decree 24, can steal the presidency. If number 4 winner of a governorship can become the governor of a state, it's going to happen to the presidency as well. So you guys need to take this information. Section 134(2) has 3 conditions. And this is where everything gets to be pretty scary. Because you can do everything that you can do. And at the end of the day, you fail. And if we fail, and we allow that murderous 1999 Constitution, AKA Military Decree 24, to come back into existence, our existence will be more challenged than it is right now, because we have seen huge bus loads of Fulanis heading to the Southwest. That was just this past week that we saw that convoy. They're already in the forest. Malafia told you, we saw them. We've got all the documentation from the borders across. When there was the lockdown, and Milafia said this, they were moving about like there was no lockdown. They were in the forest. They were in Dangote trucks. They were hiding them as if they were seamen. They were hiding them as if they were goats or whatever it is that they were bringing into the South. And these were Almajiri. These were young men. These were people from the North, the Fulanis, because they did not speak the language. They're already in the forest. They have pitched their homes in the forest. And this is where, again, we're telling the indigenous Nigerians, you must impress upon your governors to clear the forest of these foreigners. Buhari has told them that these are foreigners. He has said these are foreigners, governors, senators, House of Representatives. Indigents, you must impress upon them that they must clear those forests and send those foreigners from back to where they came from. And then those governors must demand that the federal government disarm those Fulanis that are carrying AK-47s, because they have not spoken up. Buhari has not spoken up to say, drop your arms or else. Just making a statement that those carrying AK-47s are from outside of Nigeria. How does that help Nigerians? How does that help indigents that are being killed on a daily basis? Whether they're on the train, whether they're at the airport, whether they're in their homes, whether they're on the farms, they can't even go farming. So starvation has come to over 100 million Nigerians, which is war that has been declared against indigenous Nigerians. Go ahead, Stephen.
Jean, please, may I make a correction in a sarcastic form that Buhari has indeed spoken up. He has spoken up many times. He has spoken up in support of the Miyetti Allah,
yes, you are
by
right.
paying them 100 billion naira
years
ago for the lives lost.
Yes.
He has spoken up by telling the indigenous citizens to give up their land for ranching if they want to be safe. Yes. So he's speaking up, he's just speaking up for the wrong reason.
Right. And he has commanded them to disarm, because the military, remember the police that we talked about, we showed that earlier, that told citizens not to take up arms illegally. Okay, the citizens are being killed. Under international law, Buhari and police and DSS, indigents have the right to pick up arms to defend themselves by any means necessary. Their lives are in danger. Their property is in danger. The lives of their children is in danger. They have the law on their side in Nigerian law, in African law, in international law. And yet the government of Nigeria is denying the indigenous Nigerians, the citizens of Nigeria, the ability to defend themselves. They are denying them today their ability. And that's why all indigenous Nigerians from the middle belt to the south must go to their governors and insist, demand, not move until it is done, that they put that law in place where vigilantes must be indigenous from their area and be known to their town, town people as being indigenous to the area, be allowed to carry these weapons to protect the people. No more of these mercenaries or whoever that they're sending, the police, the DSS, that are actually killing the indigents and not doing anything to stop. In fact, the primate that was kidnapped and released, he made a statement that after they were released, that the young people wanted to go after the kidnappers, and the DSS, the armed forces, prevented them from doing so. That's complicity. That is not just complicity. That is you're driving the action. This government is driving this invasion, this apartheid, this genocide, this invasion of ethnic nations. And the world must wake up. Calling on the US, and especially the UK, that know exactly what's going on. The document is in your archives. The fact that these regions were autonomous is known everywhere. History is not hidden. And yet you're sitting. The United Nations is the organization that's supposed to protect indigenous nations. What has it said when these indigenous nations were just summarily removed and the people are being killed? Their own number, their own special rapporteur said that something had to be done in 2019. And today, more than 3 times killings is happening today. And the UN has the audacity, yes, you heard me, Antonio Guterres, the audacity to say that we should integrate terrorists into Nigeria, foreign terrorists at that. The only saving grace is that I am assuming that you don't know this fact. And we're going to share information with you about this fact and have been sharing it on Twitter to you so that you cannot say that you don't know, and you must rescind that endorsement that you made, because that is against the people, the indigenous people of the land. And no one is allowed to trump the immigration policies anyway and say that foreigners can just be let to be citizens, that all Fulani, which is what they said in the thing with Bala Mohammed, right? He said all Fulanis are citizens of Nigeria. I dare them to prove that. When they don't even originate from Nigeria, how can they be citizens of Nigeria? And they're bringing them in the hundreds of thousands and millions of them to overtake the Nigerian people. So as we're coming to a close, I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to have their say. But before then, let's go over again what we are asking the people to do. 2023 elections is going to renew the fraudulent constitution. And there is no guarantee given section 134(2) that your candidate who might win will actually emerge as the president. You must demand that all governors in the affected killing areas from the Middle Belt to South sign a law in place, like Governor Autumn has done, and allow vigilantes to carry weapons to protect the people. They must form farming guards that will take the people into the farms to farm. They must demand the disarming of this Fulani militia, the number 3 or 4 terrorist group on the Global Terrorist Index. They must demand that they are disarmed. And citizens should be allowed to defend their life, the lives of their children, and their property, and not be killed while cows are being protected. It wasn't just the other day that a car that hit a cow, and they killed a human being for a cow. They killed a human being. In the South, every single cow that is killed is compensated. The governors compensate them. But no life that this Fulani have taken have been compensated for, nor have they faced any punishment. We have seen that. These are facts. We're not making these up. I see Peter, I see you have raised your hand. Go ahead and make a comment. Make it quick so that we can close. We're going a little over.
It's a quick question. Okay. Based on the slide that we just showed now, I was wondering, what would you say about the school of thought that believes that referendum under the Nigerian current structure, where they are in charge of INEC, they are in charge of all the infrastructure, they're in charge of all the personnel, that a referendum will be a journey in futility, which is why the Yoruba movement have decided to 5 million signatures, more or less doing their own referendum by themselves?
Well, that is actually not a referendum. That's actually just a poll. As you can see, when you look at what happened in Russia, when you look at what's happening in Scotland now, That's what a referendum looks like. And everyone needs to bear in mind, this referendum is not going to be handled by the present government. A transitional team.
Thank you.
A transitional team that is going to be also augmented with independent observers is going to be carrying this out. It needs to be clear. And this is part of the things that we're trying to clarify as we send out these messages. It is not the Buhari government and INEC that is going, it's a completely separate process. Please, everyone go and take a look at what happened in South Africa, because that's kind of similar to what we're talking about. When apartheid was taken down, there was a transitional team that actually went through the transition while the government was in place. You put a transitional team in place that actually gets this done. Okay.
Thank you.
So it's not
Thank
going
you.
to be. So please share that information broadly so people understand that there is a process. Nina's is shepherding that process, and all these other groups know what that plan is. It's referendum, and it's not a referendum that is going to be conducted by this government.
And why I asked was because
Jane,
the referendum that was being canvassed was United Nations observers, and we know that United Nations, as made up by France and UK, will be complicit if they are
well, they're just observers.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they actually have a hand in the results. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Jane,
yeah, but you do need to. They're not going to
to
be the only ones that are being the independent observers, right? So, but everyone check out South Africa and what happened in South Africa, because that's kind of similar, because we do have an apartheid situation in Nigeria, and that process worked there, and that's what Ninas is calling, and other groups are calling for it now. I think we'll get into the meeting of minds that this referendum is what's going to save the indigenous Nigerian. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, please allow me to make a quicker response to the gentleman. The anti-referendum movement within the Yoruba Alliance is misinformed and is divisive. I know that because I'm Yoruba, and I've been working for the referendum movement. And also I'm still working actively with the 5 million people petition, even as we speak. Just like Gina said, there's a whole lot of misinformation within the Yoruba Alliance regarding the referendum. A number of them, unfortunately, do not know the difference between referendum and restructuring.
Right.
Okay. If you look at recent history, the British government, the European Union, did not conduct the referendum for Britain to get out of EU. The British government did. So by that same analogy, the entity that you are getting out of will not conduct the referendum for you. In the same way that EU did not conduct referendum for Britain, INEC will not conduct referendum for the alliance nations. The alliance nation will form its own referendum organization.
By each block.
Exactly.
By each block.
So I just want to inform my brother that in the Yoruba community, there are divisive elements that have injected confusion into the discourse.
Thank you,
created
sir.
other confusion that to make it look like referendum is bad.
Thank you, sir.
You are very welcome, sir. Thank you, Jane.
Okay, I think we've had a very good discussion today. And I was just really happy that we were able to bring that document out. And I'm just going to flash that again. Bring that document out that shows clearly that Nigeria was not meant to be unitary. That fact was known a long time ago. And the agreement amongst the for independence was for regional autonomy. That means nationhood. You have self-governance, you have autonomy, you have control of your assets, you have control of your people and the well-being of your people, okay? And the center cannot dictate to you what happens in your region. That's not what we have today. We have states. And so by the mere fact that there are no nations in Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a fraud. You need nations to be a federation. It's a fraud. Besides the fact that that constitution is the fact, it is a fraud. Besides the fact that Nigeria as it stands as one Nigeria is not a democratic state, but it's an apartheid, an Islamic state for that matter. I'm just quoting what others are saying. And these are facts that any investigative journalist can unearth. Bernard Henri, he went out and he brought the information and he called for sanctions against the Nigerian government and specifically accused them of complicity in the killings, in the genocide that's going on. And again, here is that document for those of you that want to go and find it. This is where it is. Okay, here is that document. It is api.parliament.uk/historic Hansard, HANSARD. And when you get there, you put in Nigerian Constitution, it will give you the years, put in 1953, and here it comes up. These are facts. The fact that Nigeria was had regions that were autonomous, those are facts. And that's what we are demanding, right? We are demanding the restoration. I'll bet they look a little different because we have a different system, right? And so the blocks will need to decide what they want to do, who they want to be associated with. And we're calling on the UN to do its job. Its job is to protect indigenous nations. Again, these are facts. The People's Nation, here it is, in the pink. Unitary Nigeria is Fulani imposed. And then the new People's Nation, this is where the blocks decide whether they are going to be in or out and who they associate with. So thank you all very much again. I appreciate everyone that has contributed to the program today. We are here every Saturday at 7 p.m. Nigeria time, 2 p.m. Eastern Central Time, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please join us, share this video. This is vital information that our people need to know. And yes, sometimes it goes a little long, but we are continually pulling information as we are talking, so you can see that everything that we're telling you is from information that's out there that we are gathering. So I'm going to ask everyone to have a wonderful rest of the weekend. And those in the US, they have a long weekend coming up, but the 4th of July is on July 4th. So I'm going to wish everyone a happy July 4th. And we'll be back here again next Saturday. And do share this information and do share the invitations to others so they can come and learn, because it is important. Knowledge is power. Power is freedom. And freedom is our indigenous nations. Thank you all very much.